Welcome back to Theater Talk on WTBU Radio. Right now we're joined by John-Michael Breen, who is with the 10th anniversary national tour cast of Rock of Ages. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So can you tell our listeners who might not know the show what the show is about?
Essentially, the show sort of features a few plot points, but the main two are we follow Drew and Sherry, who are two young artists who both find themselves coming to LA to pursue their dreams in the late 80s, the heat of the Sunset Strip. Drew works at the Bourbon Room, which is a local bar and music venue. He's a barback. Sherry, upon arriving to LA, gets mugged, meets Drew, and then is invited back to see if she can get a job while she finds herself. She's an actress. Lonny, who's the character I play, also works at the Bourbon Room with his best friend Dennis, who owns the bar. And very quickly after the show starts, it's found that the mayor has been bribed into starting a cleanup effort for the entire Sunset Strip, and the Bourbon is in jeopardy of closing.
Right.
So we kind of follow those two stories through the remainder of the show.
That just took me back. I haven't seen the show in so long. I'm like, I love this show.
It's so good. It's so good. And it's one of, I think, the smarter jukebox musicals in terms of creating three-dimensional original characters, truly funny characters, and pulling all that great music from the 80s.
This is the 10th anniversary of the show, and there have been a lot of jukebox musicals since then, but I still think this is one of the best.
Oh, absolutely.
All 80s songs, like, rocking out. Very fun. Could you tell us a little bit about your background, and, like, did you always know you wanted to be an actor?
Yeah. I started performing when I was very little. In community and youth theater from when I was about 6 years old. And I was just talking to the little son about this, actually. When I was 12, I did a production of Ragtime.
Oh, my favorite musical.
Which is an incredible show. And then shortly thereafter, I did my first professional show at North Shore Music Theater, a production of Nine. And those two, sort of very close in time, especially working with professionals on Nine, really cemented my drive for this. And then I went to Chelmsford High School, which has a fantastic performing arts program, and really fantastic faculty there who definitely supported me and encouraged me to follow this. I auditioned for about a dozen programs around the country, and then eventually decided on Point Park in Pittsburgh, which I loved very much. And I haven't been since I graduated. I miss Pittsburgh a lot. And yeah, then I moved to New York, and it just kind of took off from there.
Nice. That's awesome. So for those who aren't too familiar with the musical, it's had a very interesting history. So it started in 2005 in LA, and then it went to do a Vegas run, and then in 2008 did Off-Broadway at New World. Then it finally opened on Broadway in 2009 at the Brooks Atkinson and ran on Broadway for 7 years. And then halfway through it switched to the Helen Hayes for a smaller venue. When did you first know about Rock of Ages? Did you?
Oh, I think I saw the first national tour in Pittsburgh at the Benedum Center, which is this enormous venue. And, being a college student, the cheap seats are back in the balcony. So I left my opera glasses at home, but I could just see sort of bodies moving around the stage. But the great thing about Rock of Ages is the characters are so larger than life that I still got the entire story, even sitting all the way back there. And I remember loving the show. And then I've seen a handful of regional productions with my friends. So I was familiar with it going into the audition process.
That's awesome. The show is done all over the world. Just in 2018, I just pulled up the list. There's a revival in Guatemala, Lima. My best friend's producing the UK tour right now. And then, of course, we have the US tour. Why do audiences love the show so much and connect with it?
I think it's the music, ultimately. They, unlike any other jukebox musical that I know of, they were able to pull from the entire 80s as opposed to just one artist's catalog.
Right.
So they were able to really tailor fit these songs to characters and situations that, you just think, what does this moment need? And they were able to grab that exact song. And I think the musical arrangements and the mashups that they've made are also super entertaining.
Yeah.
It's fun for people who love two songs to see them put together in a really creative musical way.
Right.
we genuinely have people dancing in their seats every single night, which is the best thing to see.
That's awesome. And then in excuse me, and then in 2012 we had the movie version, which I think brought Rock of Ages into like the mass public.
Right.
Did you see the movie? Do you like the movie? What are your thoughts on it? You can be honest.
I started watching it, and I'll say didn't finish it, but the truth is I couldn't finish it.
Okay.
Though I think there were some really cool creative ideas that they used in the movie. I just think the show itself is so cinematic that I think putting it on film really changed what it is at its nature.
Right.
And I think altering it to sort of be a vehicle for Stacey Jacks was maybe not the best move.
Okay.
But, I respect it for what it is.
Of course.
I'm glad that it brought the story to the masses, and the music
right.
to the masses, but the show is definitely better.
Oh, I think that in most cases. So, like we were talking about, these characters are like larger than life, and they're very iconic. I feel like Stacey Jacks is like an iconic musical theater character right now. What was it like going into like the rehearsal process? Like trying to like, did you want to like recreate these roles? Obviously, you wanted to make it your own. How did you work with like the whole creative team, especially the director, and like making this tour your own?
Yeah, I would say, weren't necessarily interested in reinventing the wheel, but they definitely wanted to bring fresh eyes and honor sort of the 10th anniversary.
Right.
To sort of look at the script and go back to the script and say, what is the story that we're telling? Especially since so many people have seen it and know what Rock of Ages is.
Right.
They were interested in seeing what new flavors can we bring to this? What can we highlight? And I think that's probably best represented in Sherry, who's played by Katie Lamarck, who is fabulous.
Who we saw in Rent last year for our Boston listeners.
Yeah, she's killer. She plays Sherry so strong and secure, even when she's down and faltering. She's still gung-ho and following her dreams. And my character too has changed a bit. Obviously, Mitch Jarvis, who played the original, was fabulous and did it in Vegas. Toured with it, but they were interested in highlighting why Lonny is the narrator and sort of zoning in on that and making it more of a presence,
right?
Which was really fun to discover in rehearsals.
That's awesome. So I've heard a lot of crazy stories, especially from the Broadway production, where like people would be like belligerently drunk in the audiences and like vomiting, and ushers had to like clean up every night. Do you have any crazy stories from the road? I know the tour like just started, but anything crazy happen yet?
Our first show, first public performance, supposedly, I did not personally witness this, but supposedly there were multiple fights in the balcony.
Oh boy.
But other than that, I mean, no. People dress up sort of ridiculously in a good way for this, which is awesome. Come dress as their favorite character or just wear their best rock and roll gear. I've been lucky enough to do Rocky Horror a few times in my career, and I feel like that really prepared me for this, because not that people are heckling or talking back the whole time, but Lonny interacts with the audience a whole lot, and sometimes audience members just love to talk right on back to me, which is great. I'll take it. But it keeps me on my toes. But as far as rowdy behavior, we haven't seen too much of that yet, but you kind of have to be prepared for anything.
Yeah, I'm sure. We'll see what happens. You'll have to keep us updated.
I will.
And I know you're local. You're not from too far away. What is it like coming back to like the Boston area and like performing this like behemoth show for Boston audiences?
It's amazing. It's definitely living the dream and feels like a full circle moment. Having seen shows at the Wang or at the Colonial or the Paramount growing up, to just come back here and be on the other side of things is pretty wild.
What's it like being at the Wang Theater? It's a huge, like, beautiful theater.
Oh, it's enormous. Yeah. It's such a cool space. Downstairs by the dressing rooms, they have this enormous wall celebrating the 90th anniversary, and it's covered with signatures.
That's awesome.
And they still have a bunch of Sharpies that just say, like, you're welcome to sign your name, leave a message, but there's hardly any room.
Yeah,
which just is a testament to how many people, how many artists have come through.
That's awesome. Do you have any dream roles once Rock of Ages is done?
I do. I somehow escaped high school and college without doing Into the Woods.
Okay.
So before I'm too old, I would love to tackle Jack in Into the Woods. But I also have an MC in Cabaret ready to go.
Okay.
And a Seymour in Little Shop ready to go.
Great choices. One question we ask all of our guests here on Theater Talk: do you have any in your? I've looked at your resume. You've had some great roles. Do you have any like onstage mishaps? Anything go wrong, crazy wrong, like the set falling down? Any fun stories? Or has everything just been perfect?
No, certainly not perfect. I was doing a production of Dracula.
Okay.
In the middle of Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
That's how every good story starts.
Yeah.
And I was playing Renfield, and I had this. Most of my scenes were on a 10-foot. We called it a diving board. A 10-foot platform that was sort of attached to this tower structure.
Cool.
And it was this narrow little platform. And I had a sequence where just me, it was a monologue, but I was sort of talking to, if you're familiar with the story, he's kept in a insane asylum, and he talks to flies and to birds and to bugs. And I had a prop bird. And at the end of the monologue, I was supposed to pretend to eat said bird to sort of like take its head off, and I had a blood packet in my mouth that I popped in there, and it wouldn't pop show. So I was just sort of like gnawing, and it was so uncomfortable for everyone, including me.
Oh,
and
boy.
I was like, can you just... And it seriously took just the longest amount of time. I was like sweating profusely, and then eventually I got it. But at that point, I think the audience was like, "You can go. You can go. It's okay."
That's amazing. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on Theater Talk this morning.
Absolutely.
Rock of Ages is playing now through Sunday, October 28th at the Wang Theater. You can get your tickets at boxcenter.org. They have great orchestra seats starting at just $25, so very affordable. I'm very excited. I'm going in a few days, and I haven't seen the show live. I've watched a bootleg, and of course the movie. But I'm very excited. Should I say that on the radio? I'm very excited to see it. Thank you so much for coming in. Where can our listeners follow you? Do you have Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, my handle for Twitter and Instagram is at @whoismrbreen, MRBREEN.
That's great. Thank you so much for coming in, and best of luck with the rest of your tour. Also, the tour just continues going all around the U.S. after Boston. I know it's going down to the Kravis Center, which is my theater at home down in Palm Beach. You're going there in 2 stops, so that's amazing. You'll love Florida. But best of luck with the tour, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.